Hello and welcome to the Kangaroo English Podcast. My name is Christian and today is Wednesday, the best day of the week. I am back making podcasts again after a long absence, and I'm really looking forward to making podcasts regularly again and talking to you more often. And I wanted to start today's podcast by telling you something about myself, which is that I am an opsimath. It's not a very common word. In fact, it's quite a rare word, a word that's probably not very useful to you at all. But the story that I'm going to tell you, I think, is quite an important story. So an opsimath is a person who learns late in life. There's an expectation in a lot of cultures that, the time to learn is when you're a child, when you're young. That's when you spend all your time in school learning stuff, and then that's it. You stop learning, right? You finish school and you go and you get a real job, do some real work. And, that's the trajectory that a lot of people take. And it's nice to see recently that there's been a movement towards people being lifelong learners, towards always staying curious and learning new things, like a language, for example. So that's why I think it's super cool to be an opsimath. Now, if we look at the word opsimath, you'll probably notice that it's made of two parts, right? We have opsi and math. They're both Greek. The word comes from Greek. And so opsi meant late and math meant to learn. Okay, so to learn late. And there's another related word which is a little bit more common, which is a polymath. So a polymath is somebody who knows a lot, right? They have a lot of knowledge. And that starts to make sense, right? Because poly means many and math means learn. So polymath means somebody who's learnt many things. And that means that the word math actually means to learn. Now, most people, when they hear the word math or mathematics, they don't think about learning, they think about numbers. And depending on your personal relationship with mathematics, that could be a good or a bad thing. Personally, I didn't like maths at school. I was not inspired by my teachers. I didn't understand a lot of what happened in class. And so, I have I don't have a great relationship with maths. And that's a little bit what this episode is about, because earlier this year, the National Center for Mathematics in America, they made a statement. And the statement was probably a little bit shocking for the National, Center for Mathematics. They said that they wanted schools to basically stop teaching children calculus. Right? Now, again, it's a shocking thing, right? Imagine, an organization that represents mathematics saying that they want schools to stop teaching mathematics. Now, the question is why, and three of the people from the National Center, they actually wrote an explanation why, and that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, so they basically said that in 1984 there was 113,000 students studying engineering, okay, with a degree in engineering, and in 2010, so we're talking about 30 years later, okay. There was 112,000 students with a degree in engineering. So the number of students who chose to study engineering was the same. But the number of children who were studying calculus, which is a very high-level mathematical subject, rose from 14% to 35%. Okay, so although the same amount of people were choosing to become engineers, the amount of people that were learning calculus had increased more than double, and this caused a problem. Okay, and this is the problem that they talk about in this PDF, right? They said that, and I'm going to read directly from their PDF. It says, "The National Council of Teachers and Mathematics have known for a long time that the pump is pushing more students into advanced mathematics earlier, and it is not effective. It is counterproductive. Too many students are moving too fast through preliminary courses so that they can get calculus onto their high school transcripts." And then comes the really shocking part. So it says that 1/3 of students who took calculus in high school then had to go and do pre-calculus when they got to university. And 1 in 6 who got calculus in high school had to take remedial mathematics, basically like the most basic type of mathematics. So although they had calculus ticked on their high school transcripts, although they had the piece of paper to say that they had passed their calculus, 1/3 of them didn't understand it, and 1/6 of them didn't actually have any solid foundation in mathematics at all. Okay. Now let me read from the conclusion of their paper. So it says, "The United States has fallen into a seriously dysfunctional system for preparing students for careers in science and engineering, guaranteeing that all but the very best rush through essential parts of the mathematics curriculum and are then forced to sit and wait while they try to compensate for what was missed." So basically, only the students who are really interested in mathematics, who really study hard, are actually ready for university calculus. And the rest of them have to catch up. So the good students wait and they get bored. So the system is bad for everybody. Now, why am I telling you all this about mathematics? I'm telling you because this is almost an identical parallel to the way that languages are taught. There is a rush in schools to get students to have the piece of paper to say that they can, to say that they know English. I know so many students personally who have the B2 certificate, who have the piece of who have a Cambridge exam certificate, to say that they can that they know English, right? And they don't. In fact, if they were to come to a class with me, just like those mathematics students, we would have to start right back at basics again, because unless you have a solid foundation, you can't move on. And teachers are under pressure to teach the curriculum, that's in the workbook, and to finish it. It does it if the students can't keep up. Well, that's just too bad. Teachers got to finish the workbook because they're under pressure from the administration to do the exams. And I think that the system is failing students. And I think a really great example of this is the work of Paul Nation. So I did an interview with Paul Nation. You can hear the full thing on my YouTube channel. And he basically talks about how the research shows that 1/4 of a good English course will be basically learning nothing new. So 25% of your time will be learning nothing new. It will be just revising the things that you know again and again and again and again until they become automatic, until you know them without thinking, because that is fluency, right? That's fluency, is producing without thinking and having a solid foundation. And my advice to you, as a student listening to this, or even as a teacher, would be to slow down. If you're feeling like you want to give up, it's probably because you're going too fast. You're trying to take on too much. I don't often talk about personal stories because, personal anecdotes are not scientific, right? They're just experience. But at the moment, I'm learning Arabic, and I've spent weeks just trying to learn how to read and write in the new alphabet. And I expect to spend many weeks and many months more before it becomes automatic. And I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with my progress, because I know, and because I've told myself again and again, that it will take a really long time. And so when I don't remember anything from my class, I don't feel stupid. And if it takes me 6 months only to learn the alphabet, well, I'm happy with that. If your goals are different, that's fine. But you have to put in the work to match your goals. Personally, I don't have 8 hours a day to study Arabic. I would advance a lot faster. So with my 2 hours a week, I have what I think are the realistic expectations. And you have to ask yourself, if you have realistic expectations too. I think that this story about mathematics is a really interesting one, because it shows, in the same way that the language industry has professionals, has linguists, has researchers who are saying, slow down, guys. Who are saying, we need to change curriculums, we need to change exams. We need to start listening to those people, because in a way maths is easier than language, because maths is about right and wrong, but language is much more flexible, and so it's much more difficult to examine it and to say that something is good or bad or right or wrong, because there's not just one right answer. So I hope that's inspired you a little bit today to go back to basics, to not put so much pressure on yourself, and to make the knowledge that you already have, to make it solid and to make it automatic. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm Christian. This is Kangaroo English, and I'll see you in class. It's time to stop studying.